From KCTV5, local, live, this is Kansas City on the Record.
Thank you for joining us on your Sunday morning for Kansas City on the Record. I'm Brad Stevens. Our goal with this show each week is to put a magnifying glass on the biggest stories impacting our community. We aim to give you a better understanding of what's happening in Kansas City and hold leaders accountable. Now, in Kansas City, a constant, never-ending topic on everyone's mind is crime. For decades, Kansas City has been considered among the most dangerous cities in the United States. More recently, after a big spike during the pandemic, the number of homicides in Kansas City dropped dramatically. 2023 was the city's deadliest year in history. In 2025, homicides were down by nearly 25%. In fact, crime numbers fell almost across the board last year. Statistics from police show just about everything from shootings to stolen cars are on a downward trend. And that's part of an even larger trend across the nation. Murders, assaults, robberies, and carjackings have all plummeted. So, while Kansas City is significantly safer than a few years ago, it still hasn't shaken its reputation as one of the most dangerous cities in the United States. Statistics show it still ranks in the top 20 or sometimes top 10 of national lists. But there are efforts underway to change that, one of which is KC360, which collaborates with police, community groups, and faith leaders to stop crime at the source. Efforts like these are vital, but for real, lasting change, the system has to work from the top down. And that means ensuring the criminals police catch are held accountable by the people who prosecute them. So we talked with Jackson County Prosecutor Melesa Johns. She touts a 70% conviction rate. We got her on the record about when that success in the courtroom will finally translate to safety on your street. Your office has seen a rise in both case filings and conviction rates. So there's success there. There are successes there in your office. But as we were alluding to earlier, according to some crime statistics, there is still more work to be done. In some statistics, some studies, Kansas City is still ranked as high as number 20 in the country as far as violent cities. There are successes, still more work to do. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. You know, change can often be incremental, but it's still change. It's still progress. And, you know, the reductions that we are seeing in our community is a byproduct of a lot of intentional acts and partnerships and collaboration and efforts, not only coming out of the prosecutor's office, but all of our local law enforcement agency and community as well.
What does it take to move the needle further? Is it time, effort?
It's a little bit of all of the above. You know, we did not get here overnight. If you look, for example, at our homicide statistics dating all the way back to 2006, 2007, when we did still have conceal and carry laws on the books in the state of Missouri as it pertains to gun laws. Once those were eradicated in 2014, you saw our homicide numbers go from trending historically under 100 to 130, 140, 170, even up to 183 during our most violent year not too far long ago. So gun laws do have an impact on how we are able to reduce and eradicate crime. Other laws also have an impact. When we have very expansive stand your ground and self-defense laws, that makes it very difficult for us to be able to prosecute certain offenses and hold individuals accountable to hopefully future deter other individuals from engaging in crime. But it also takes a lot of community investment. One of my favorite taglines and monikers is that, yes, we care about strict accountability. We care about making sure individuals understand there is a code of conduct in Jackson County, but we also care greatly about connecting people to second chances, to making sure that we have the investments so that people don't feel the need to engage in a life of crime in the first place. We need those investments not coming just from City Council, who did make a $30 million over 5-year investment into violence prevention, really eradicating those root causes of crime, but we need that same level of investment from our state government as well.
You know, one of the problems that I've heard your office talk about is lack of jail space. And you know, this is not a new issue with you or Jackson County or the city of Kansas City, but there are plans to have that jail space built. What kind of a difference will that make?
You know, that is going to make a difference, especially because of the programming that is going to occur out of the Jackson County Detention Center, really trying to get ahead of reducing recidivism, making sure people return back to their communities, healthy, whole, productive citizens. But we do need more. I'm grateful for this innovative design and how it's much more human-centered and much better equipped to serve our community, but it's not going to come with much more available space. And that is concerning. You know, you already mentioned we're charging more cases, we're receiving more referrals from law enforcement. Well, with that, you usually need more detention space, especially for individuals that violate the terms of their bond conditions, etc.
The rate of most crimes fell in Kansas City. Domestic violence increased by 57%, and we know a lot of times that these are frequent offenders that are doing a lot of this. What are you doing to prevent those individuals from becoming frequent offenders, or from stopping becoming frequent offenders, and to try to reverse that trend?
Absolutely. You know, we saw the most deadly year as it pertains to domestic violence over these past couple of years. Homicides with a domestic violence nexus have honestly skyrocketed. A couple of years ago, it was 1 in 12. And recently, it was 1 in 3 homicides had a correlation to domestic violence. And so as soon as I took office, it was important for me to figure out a way to try to handle more domestic violence cases adequately before they end up in the loss of life, because by then it's far too late. So I sent a letter the second week of my administration to all local policing agencies and municipal prosecutors with a very detailed set of factors that would warrant submission of a case to my office for felony charge consideration, as opposed to the municipal prosecutor's office for municipal charging consideration, which usually only carries a range of punishment of up to 6 months in prison and a fine. That's not enough to really deter future negative activity in our county's households. So once we sent that letter, we have seen an increase in domestic violence referrals from law enforcement. And yes, we have absolutely been able to charge more cases. We are hopeful as the years progress, being able to hold individuals accountable at the lower level will help us be able to prevent any future lethalities that might occur in our community.
I've heard you talk about a blind spot in understanding the root causes of crime. Can you explain that for our viewers who maybe haven't heard of that, what the blind spot is and how that works?
You know, root causes of crime change over time. You know, in the 90s, at the height of the crack epidemic, at the height of organized gangs, people committed offenses for much different reasons than they do now. And so when we collectively as a community are talking about how do we attack the root causes of crime, we often talk about the demographic that is driving crime. And there are some traditional root causes, right? Lack of education, poverty, the concentration of poverty in urban neighborhoods, food deserts, not having your basic needs met, you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But fast forward to present day, now some of our music and our movies and our TV shows are inciting a culture of violence to a much different degree than they did back in the day. You always had certain rap groups that would make a living off of, you know, having some pretty salacious lyrics, but now it is just completely pervasive in our young communities. There are 13, 14, 15-year-olds committing some pretty heinous offenses in our community right now.
And they're very impressionable.
And they're very impressionable. And so we have some cultural realities that we really have to confront. But on top of that, and frankly, most importantly, we need to find creative and innovative ways to go to the demographic that is driving the crime and ask them, why is it that you are in this predicament?
You know, we've talked about and we've reported on the decrease in crime in Kansas City and frankly across the nation. Why do you think that is at this point in time that many areas are seeing a drop in crime?
You know, the COVID era was tough on the entire country. And Kansas City, Jackson County more broadly was no different. Crime skyrocketed nationwide during the 2020 years, 2021, et cetera. I feel like we are finally kind of balancing out.
And you can find this full interview at kctv5.com/ontherecord or on the KCTV5 Plus app. In it, the prosecutor also outlines what steps she hopes to take in the next year. Up next, a story about reclaiming a stolen past. We give you an inside look at the new database in Jackson County, helping families find the names slavery tried to erase. Plus, we look at how people in our community are helping others. The woman wrapping up little pink bags, which make a big impact for girls all across Kansas City.
You're watching Kansas City on the Record from KCTV5. Welcome back to Kansas City on the Record from KCTV5.
For many black families in Kansas City and all across the United States, slavery erased their records, their names, and their history. One local man spent decades looking for answers. Now, a new database in Jackson County is trying to put those names back within reach. KCTV5's Zach Summers reports.
This is a deed record.
Reggie James has long studied the past. His family's history is no different. In 1979, while watching the TV miniseries Roots: The Next Generation, the now retired school teacher felt the pull to discover his own roots.
It's not like it is today where everything's been digitalized and you can get it on a computer. You had to go to the archives and use the microfilm, wheeling it by hand.
He spent nearly 50 years poring over census records, newspaper clippings, and documents from the Jackson County Recorder of Deeds.
This here is the 1850s slave schedule.
An arduous process, but one that eventually led him to his paternal grandmother, Oletha Brookings, born in 1905.
When I found it, I saw her mother's name. I never knew her mother's name.
Reggie traced the Brookings side of his family in Jackson County back to 1851, mapping the lineage of his enslaved ancestors all the way back to the 17th century, starting in Maine through Virginia, Kentucky, and ultimately into Clay and Jackson counties, Missouri.
George is my second great-grandfather. Brookings, he was a slave.
What goes through your mind? The fact that you've been able to find this many relatives.
I have stories on all these people like I knew them.
Stories that give the 75-year-old a place of belonging, a clear identity.
To find out what your people went through, what sacrifices they did for me to be here, the audacity of this whole system, you know.
Reggie already did the hard part. Decades of page-by-page digging, one record at a time. But now these Jackson County records that were always public are much easier to search and understand. Enter the historians at the Warnold Majors House Museums.
The database was a little bit of a happy accident.
Sarah Bader King is the executive director. Her team was researching property records connected to Alexander Majors, a pioneer freighter who enslaved at least 23 people, when they found a deed of trust. It listed 9 enslaved people, not as just property, but by name and age.
Once I pulled up a couple of these deeds and saw that most of them had names in them, I was like, we really have something here.
That discovery led them back into the Jackson County Recorder of Deeds, where they found hundreds of deeds, wills, probate records, and bills of sale, a trove of legal documents sometimes difficult to navigate.
We realized pretty quickly that we could provide a service by simply summarizing these documents.
The online database turns 19th century records into searchable names. Users can search by name, document type, or keywords with document images and plain language summaries.
This is not just Black history, this is American history.
A digital tool designed to help people piece together their ancestor stories.
The age determined how much they were worth.
The same work Reggie did by hand for decades, now open to anyone to start.
I'm happy that they're doing it.
An invitation to bring lost names back to light.
You've got a lot of people that are interested. The records are there.
Zach Summers.
You never know what you might find.
KCTV5 News.
Since our interview, the museum has found several hundred more names to add to the database. It is free to use, and we've linked it in our story on our news app and at kctv5.com. The museum also offers up to 2 hours of free research help. Up next, a story which encapsulates the heart of Kansas City. We're showing you how a simple pink bag is becoming a lifeline for local students and how one woman's mission sparked a massive movement.
You're watching Kansas City on the Record from KCTV5.
The heart of Kansas City can come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes that can include a little pink bag. It's part of a local effort now gaining more traction than ever. They're making sure local students have feminine hygiene products when they need them the most, away from home. KCTV5's Morgan Rydell introduces us to the brains and inspiration behind the Pink Bag Project.
I was thinking about my daughter and her classmates getting ready for this life-changing event.
So she puts together these pink bags. In them, supplies for young girls who can't afford menstrual products. A safety net that she realized others didn't have.
This project is so much more than just a period pack. It can be one girl's lifeline. If she's going home and she doesn't have any of those.
Experts say that's 1 in 4 teens and 1 in 3 adults who can't afford menstrual products.
For years, legislators in Missouri and Kansas have tried to close this gap, though without success.
It's one of those things that we take for granted if we can afford them, if we've always had access to them.
So she took on the task herself, creating the Pink Bag Project. Over the past 2 years, Leyland's made over 100 bags that Blue Springs and Grain Valley schools give out to students.
So in here, we've got some pads. We have feminine wipes, and then we have some little stickers.
But she wants to make sure everyone who needs one gets one. In January, she posted on social media.
Hey everyone, it's Leyland.
She added more schools to her list, and the supplies began flowing in from people in our community.
We have Ipsy bags and over 800 pads. Amazon boxes just started filling my driveway.
She already has enough to distribute 400 pink bags for this semester, quadrupling the number of bags distributed since 2024 in just weeks.
This just happened so quickly.
So Queen Bee Boutique opened their doors for Leyland to have some more room for her boxes. Here you go. And in February, more than a dozen women showed up to help.
It's just up to you.
A community effort these women say they were ready to take part in. They just needed someone to call them to the table.
It's such a good feeling to be able to give back and to be able to just be a part of something so much bigger in the community. Like, we're really making change and making a difference in these kids' lives.
And they are certainly making a difference in people's lives. You can send your stories of people doing good across Kansas City. Email your ideas to heart@kctv5.com. When we come back, we'll have a look at some of the top stories we're watching for you this week.
Welcome back to Kansas City on the Record from KCTV5.
We're back with a look at the top stories that we're keeping an eye on this week. We begin in Overland Park, where the city will break ground on a new police training center tomorrow. These are the renderings of what the finished product will look like. It'll cost nearly $20 million to build and will include conference rooms, a gym, and a defensive tactics training room. It'll be built at the Sanders Justice Center campus just off 125th and Foster. They expect it to be open in 2028. Turning now to Leavenworth, where Tuesday, city commissioners plan to discuss CoreCivic's special use permit. The private prison company is trying to open an ICE detention center at this facility, but will need the commissioners' approval. People from across the metro have descended on the city to protest against it in the past. Tuesday's meeting will be open to the public. In Kansas City now, the man accused of killing 2 women in a nightclub will be in court this Wednesday. His name is Dante Brooks, and he's charged with 10 crimes, including 2 counts of second-degree murder. He's accused of killing Ebony Silas and Tishwana Ballard, as well as shooting another woman in the leg and a man in the face. It happened as they were celebrating Valentine's Day 1 week ago at Club Status. Court records say Brooks began firing after an unknown man whispered in his ear, then tried to run away. but DNA evidence from a baseball cap he left behind tied him to the crime. Brooks is in jail with a $200,000 cash-only bond. He'll be in court to discuss that with the judge. Also on Thursday, but down in New Orleans, the 2 people charged in the death of a Kansas City reporter will be in court. Police say Adon Manzano was killed while he was in the city covering the Chiefs' Super Bowl last year. The 27-year-old's body was found in his hotel room, and a toxicology report shows he had Xanax and alcohol in his system. These 3 are charged in his death. Police accused Danette Colbert of drugging, then robbing Manzano. She was seen entering the hotel room with Manzano, then left alone. The 2 men charged are accused of helping Colbert. They have all pleaded not guilty. And that is a wrap for us here on Kansas City on the Record. We'll see you back here next week. Have a great Sunday.
Thanks for watching Local Live KCTV 5. Stay connected with KCTV 5 Plus. To live stream, watch previous newscasts, and get first warn weather. Just search KCTV on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Fire TV.